Hello everyone, Shroomraver here, and today it is time for another episode of the Nickname Academy. Yes indeed, where we're going to be going through every single Pokemon all the way from Bulbasaur to Zeraora and give them all nicknames. And once Gen 8 comes out, we're going to do them as well. Now, the other day we managed to hit quite a big milestone, 369 nicknames so far, but I've also managed to do every single one of Generation 1. So, they are all ready to go, which is absolutely grand. I'm sitting here with my cup of tea and I'm in my pyjamas because it's fairly early in the morning for me. And a bit of a pyjama day today. We're going to get lots done. And first is going to be this episode of the Nickname Academy. Now, last we left off with Electrode, and we are going to crack straight on, crack, you'll see what we did there with the segue, into our next Pokemon on the list. And that is going to be Exeggcute, that little bundle of eggs, one of them, or many of them, actually being cracked. Exeggcute is going to be nicknamed Palpatine, after, of course, Emperor Palpatine from Star Wars. I nearly said Game of Thrones there. He's not from Game of Thrones at all, he's from Star Wars. And the reason we are going to go with Palpatine is for his very famous line, when it is time for the betrayal of the Jedi, Execute Order 66. I like that one. I've been messing around with Execute and Exeggutor for that particular link's not the word I'm looking for, reference is exactly the word I'm looking for, but I thought Palpatine would work quite nicely for Exeggcute, so that's what we've gone with. Exeggcute, of course, evolves into Exeggutor, and Exeggutor is going to be called Parmigiana. I have a very bad Italian accent, and I don't know if I'm saying that right at all, but Parmigiana is what Exeggutor is going to be called. And the reason for that is because of the dish, which is Parmigiana is like, I think it's like sort of coated in maybe bacon and cheese, maybe just cheese and like a marinara sauce. But you get eggplant parmesan, eggplant parmesan, eggplant parm, all of these things. And basically, when you look at Exeggutor, it's got the eggs, it's got the plant, and it's a palm tree. Eggplant palm. Eggplant parmigiana, that's what we're going to call Exeggutor. Next up, we have Cuban. Now, Cuban is going to be called Voodoo. And this is not necessarily to do with the fact that it's kind of associated with death a little bit, but Voodoo is actually a make of pool cues. Sort of, you know, the big sticks that you play pool with. That's obviously what a pool cue is. It's a make of pool cues, and the logo for these pool cues has a skull on it, as one might expect with the name Voodoo. So you've got these cues with bones on them. Cue bone. There you go. Done. Cubone is going to be called Voodoo. Next up, we have Marowak. Marowak, of course, the evolution of Cubone, and Marowak is going to be called Gorham. Now, why are we calling it Gorham? Well, Gorham comes from Gorham's disease. It's a little bit sort of little bit kind of darker, this one. But Gorham's disease is the name given to something called phantom bone disease. I don't really know if it's a disease per se, but it's one of those things whereby, like, you hear it with people like amputees, like this kind of stereotype of like amputees where they'll feel like their arm, for example, has an itch they need to scratch, but the arm's been amputated, so it's not there. So it's like a phantom kind of phantasm thought in the head. And I think that works quite well for Marowak, because Marowak, you know, within the storyline, Lavender Town, Gen 1, all that stuff, has died, has been killed by Team Rocket. So, yeah, it's kind of like a phantom bone. And this works particularly well for the Alolan form, because, of course, Alolan Marowak is the ghost type, and it literally has a phantom bone in its hand. That's what it's holding. So that's why I think Gorham works quite well, especially for the Alolan form, but it also fits for the regular form as well. Moving on from Marowak, we have Hitmonlee. Now, Hitmonlee is going to be called Bellamy. And the reason we're going to call it Bellamy, this is named after an anime character. I think it might be the first one I've got that's named after an anime character, and it probably won't be the last. But Bellamy is a character in One Piece. He starts as kind of like sort of like an early boss kind of character, not the big bad, but like a henchman of the big bad. And he comes back, and in One Piece, the anime, it's basically Pirates with Superpowers. It's pretty cool. I know he gets a bit of a bad rap, but you know what? I like it. And Bellamy, the character, has eaten the pirates that have powers have eaten these fruits called devil fruits that give him powers. And the one that this character Bellamy has eaten gives him the power of springs, like he can transform parts of his bodies into springs to like power up his attacks. And he very often uses these on his legs to get this kind of powerful momentum attack going. So he uses it on his legs to like jump massive distances, and that's why we've gone with Bellamy for Hitmonlee, because of course got those really stretchy legs. So I thought that worked quite well. Bellamy the Hitmonlee. Next up, of course, related to Hitmonlee, we have Hitmonchan. Now, Hitmonchan is going to be called Naked and Famous, which is a strange name, I know. It's nothing about being famous, it's certainly not anything about being naked. This is actually named after a band that I really like, The Naked and Famous, and they sort of had a bit of a breakthrough, certainly in this country I know, with one of their biggest songs, which is called Punching in a Dream. I love the song, you should check it out if you don't know it, because I like it. So yeah, Hitmonchan, very much associated with punching. Naked and Famous have that song Punching in a Dream, that's why we've gone with that. Next on our list is going to be Lickitung, and Lickitung is simply going to be called Yo Sushi. Yo Sushi is, as the name would suggest, a sushi chain. It's got the sort of, it's the one where you sit and you've got this big conveyor belt going around, and you can kind of just pick off the dishes you want. And Lickitung we associate with sushi because of Pokémon Stadium. There is a mini-game called Sushi Go Round, and Lickitung is the Pokemon that takes part in that. It sort of eats as much sushi as possible, and the winner is the one who spends the most money in terms of how much the sushi is worth. So, Lickitung is going to be called Yo Sushi. Up after Lickitung we have Coughing, and Coughing is going to be called Benylin. Reason for this, Benylin is a cough medicine, quite simply. It actually tastes quite nice, as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, Benylin is a cough medicine, certainly here in the UK. I don't know if it's particularly widespread outside of that, but yeah, you take Benylin if you're coughing. Simple as that. Moving on, Coughing of course evolves into Wheezing, and Wheezing is going to be nicknamed A Bit Excited, because if you have excitement, you know, got a bit of a spring in your step, you've got a bit of zing to you. It's kind of a colloquialism, but we're running with it. But if you're only a little bit excited, you're a wee bit excited. So a bit excited, got a wee bit of zing to you. And there we go with Wheezing. After Wheezing in the Pokédex, of course, comes Ridehorn, and Ridehorn is going to be called Tokasha, and this is named after Tokasha Mechworks. Now, who or what is Tokasha Mechworks? Well, Tokasha Mechworks is a fictional company in a game called Battletech. I've never played it, but I did a little bit of research, and they make mechs, as the name would suggest, with Mechworks, and one of the mechs that they have created in this game is called the Stone Rhino, and that is exactly what Ridehorn is, a Stone Rhino. So Ridehorn is going to be called Tokasha. Ridehorn of course evolves into Rhydon, and this one is going to be much simpler. It is quite simply called Horse. Why is Rhydon called Horse? Well, because you ride on a horse. It is literally as simple as that. As I've said before, not all of these names have crazy, massive explanations going into them. Some of them are very simple, and this is literally one of them. Rhydon is called Horse because you ride on a horse. Very simple. After Rhydon, we have Chansey, that evil egg little thing. And this is going to be called Steel Military. It's not a steel type, it's not particularly offensive, but the reason we've gone with Steel Military is because the Steel Military is the name of a Fabergé egg, one of those sort of 50, I think, eggs that were made for, like, a Tsar of Russia, or his wife or something. But this particular egg, the Steel Military, is made of steel, so it's quite hard to break, and as we all know from competitive battling, Chansey can be very hard to break. So that's why we've called it Steel Military. It's associated with eggs, and it's difficult to break. Speaking of difficult to break, we move on to Tangler. Tangler, I know Evelyn, I know I've disappointed Evelyn with the nickname for Oddish, and I'm going to have to disappoint her again because we're not going with Spoogles. Shout out to Evelyn's name for Tangler, which is Spoogles, but we have gone in a different direction. We're going to be calling Tangler Gillyweed. The reason for this, if you know your Harry Potter, certainly the 4th book, you will know that Gillyweed is that sort of slimy ball of green dark vines that Harry ingests for the 4th trial. And yeah, Tangler is a nasty ball of vines. So thematically that seems to work, so Tangler is going to be called Gillyweed. After Tangler, we have Kangaskhan, and this is one of the most recent ones I thought up. Kangaskhan is going to be called Sarsupial. It's an amalgamation of several words. Of course, Kangaskhan has its infant in a pouch, which does make it a marsupial. But why have we gone with Zarsupial? Well, a Tsar, most known as the rulers of Russia, quite similar to a Khan, and we're taking that part from Kangaskhan's name. Tsars and Khans are quite similar, and in fact the first Russian ruler to openly break with the Khan of the Golden Horde, from way back when, by the name of Mikhail of Tver, after breaking from the Khan, he assumed the title of Tsar. So you've got Khan from Kangaskhan's name, which is the same kind of thing as a Tsar. It is a marsupial. We cram the two together to give us Sarsupial. Very nice. After Kangaskhan, we have Horsey, and Horsey is going to be called Famine. Now, the reason for this is we're taking the horse part of the name, and we're looking at the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. The third of these is Famine, Famine being the 3rd horseman of the apocalypse. So it's the 3rd one, so in terms of letters, that's C. So it's Horse C. Not Horse A or B or D, Horse C is Famine. There we go. With a slightly simpler seahorse-based nickname, we have Seadra, who is very simply going to be called Lee. Now, this is Lee from a band called the Axis of Awesome. They are a New Zealand? They're either Australian or New Zealand. I think they're from New Zealand. They are a 3-piece comedy band. They're very good. You should check them out. And one of their songs, the opener to one of their albums, the album called Infinity Rock Explosion, the opening track to that is called The Glorious Epic of 3 Men Who Are Awesome. True story. And in this song they choose like steeds, and one of them chooses a skeleton horse of fire, and then Lee, who is the stupid one, also chooses a skeleton horse of fire, and they're like, no, you can't choose that, you've got to choose something different. He's like, alright, I'll choose a skeleton horse of water. And they're like, what, like a seahorse? So he gets given a seahorse as his steed, and Seadra is a seahorse, so Seadra is going to be called Lee. Sticking with the water types, we next have Goldeen. Goldeen's going to be called Remember, and for this we are looking at those goldfish crackers, those sort of little crisp-like things. I knew about these. What I didn't know is that the goldfish crackers are made by Pepperidge Farm, and as we know from, I think is it a Family Guy meme? Pepperidge Farm remembers. So that's why we've gone with that, goldfish crackers made by that company, and Pepperidge Farm remembers, so remember Goldeen. After that, of course, Goldeen evolves into Seeking. And Seeking is going to be called Poseidon. This is a much simpler one. Poseidon, of course, being the god of the sea. He's basically the king of the sea. He's the sea king. It's simple, but it works. So, moving on from fish, but staying with water types, we are going to Staryu. And Staryu is going to be called Casting Call. The reason for this, why are we calling it Casting Call? Well, a casting call is what you go to if you are auditioning for a movie. You go to the casting calls they can choose who's going to be in the movies. So if you go to a casting call, it's because you want the movie to star you. Star you. Done. Casting call. Moving on from that, we have Staryu's evolution Starmie. And Starmie is going to be called St. Jude. Why is it called St. Jude? Well, back in 2013, people outside of Europe won't remember this, but there was a very bad storm that swept through Europe. And it was the storm was named St. Jude, and the main part of the UK that it hit, certainly for England, was Somerset in the West Country. Caused a lot of damage, but if you're gonna talk about that in a West Country accent, so we're gonna slip into our West Country accent right now, you would have said that it was quite stormy that day. We're going with accents. Starmie kind of sounds like you're in Somerset saying stormy, and St. Jude was the name of that particular storm in that particular area. On from Starmie, and now we're getting into those kind of single evolution Pokemon, some of which got evolutions later on. We have Mr. Mime, and Mr. Mime is going to be called Clown Prince of Mime. And we're looking at the aspects of Mr. Mime. Obviously it's based around a mime, but there are clown aspects to that as well. The title of the Joker from Batman is the Clown Prince of Crime, but Mr. Mime doesn't commit crimes, he commits mimes. So we've pushed those together and named it Clown Prince of Mime. Next on our list is going to be Scyther, one of my absolute favourite Pokemon from Gen 1, so it needs a good nickname, or it needs a badass nickname, and that's going to be Reaper. The reason for that is we're looking at the Grim Reaper, of course the sign of death, and his big thing is his scythe. He goes around, uses a scythe to do his job, so in terms of what he is, he's quite literally a scyther. He is one who scythes. So yeah, that's why we're going with Reaper for Scyther. After Scyther we have Jinx. Jinx is going to be nicknamed Beetlejuice. Reason for this, Beetlejuice is of course a film. It's quite a good film actually, and it's got that weird, I can't remember who plays him, it might be Michael Keaton, I'm not sure. But anyway, Beetlejuice is this character within this film, and in order to summon Beetlejuice, you say his name 3 times, I think into a mirror. But Jinx, the reason Jinx comes into this is because Jinx is that thing, you know, where 2 people say the same thing at the same time, and like Jinx, and then that person who doesn't say it can't speak. And what I was always taught was the way you're allowed to speak again is that person has to say your name 3 times, much like Beetlejuice. So that's why Jinx is going to be called Beetlejuice. Up next on the list we have Electabuzz. Electabuzz is going to be called LBJ. Bit of a complicated one of my earliest nicknames in fact. LBJ is US President Lyndon Baines Johnson, many of you may know. It was often shortened to LBJ. But we've gone with BEE in there because a B makes a buzzing sound. That's where the buzz comes from, and LBJ as the president was elected. So elect a buzz, LBJ. There we go. Last one on today's particular list is going to be Magmar, and Magmar is going to be called Drake. And no, we are not naming Magmar after the rapper Drake. We have a couple of other things we're going to mash together. A Drake is another name given to a dragon, who of course breathe fire and everything. But a Drake is also a duck. It's a type of duck, and Magmar is a fire type, much like a dragon, and it's also pretty much a duck. Look at the bill, look at everything. It's a fire duck, basically. Dragon, fire, ducks. Drake is the common denominator, so Magmar is going to be called Drake. And that is where we're going to leave off this particular episode of the Nickname Academy. So, thank you all very much for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed. Do remember that I always love hearing your guys' nicknames. So, if you have nicknames for these Pokemon in this video, please put them down there in the comment section below. I love reading what your nickname suggestions are, the ones you like to use. I've seen some fantastic ones already, and I really want to see as many as possible. So make sure your nicknames go down in the comment section below so I can see them, because I love them. But that is going to end things off here. Next time we're going to pick up with Pinsir. We're getting towards the end of Gen 1, very exciting stuff. But starting with Pinsir is going to be a tale for another day. So for now, my final thank you to you all for watching, and remember, every Pokemon deserves a nickname, so make sure you give them one. Laters.